What's up? So 13 months ago, I took my first ever sales call, and before then, I worked in restaurants my whole entire life. I did serving, I did bartending, I did bar backing, I did everything, right? The problem was I wasn't super satisfied with where I was at, and I felt like my ceiling was met with where I was. 13 months ago, I took my first ever sales call, and since then, I've consistently crushed 15, 20K months every single month. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I did this and what it looked like. We'll jump into my computer. Let's do it. First and most important thing is there's so much bullshit out there on the internet and you don't know who you can trust, and everyone's trying to be like, oh, I made this much money, I made that much money. I think it's so important that I'm actually open and honest with you guys and I show you guys actual real tangible proof, okay? I'm not like one of these gurus out there who's claiming to make this much money and really he doesn't. So I want to show you guys proof, okay? I've consistently been making around 15K a month, and I've had months of 23K, I've had months of 25K. This is super important because, like I said, there's too many people out there that are scamming you and just want to take your money, and they're not willing to show you things like this. I've been taking, here's sales calls that I've taken. I have thousands and thousands of these. I've been doing this for a long time now. And what I'm about to go over, I'm going to show you exactly how I was able to take the skills that I had and the skills that I had learned from working in the restaurant business, from being in that industry for years, and transfer it into something where I was no longer changing my time for money, and transfer it into something where I had the freedom and I had the ability to actually do what I wanted to do with my life. So here's just like a little diagram. This is me working at the bar. I had a Toyota Tacoma. This was my life. Like literally, this is the person that I was. And I was making around 2 to 3K a month. Fast forward, I'm able to travel, go to Hawaii, go all over the world. I bought my dream car. I bought a Mercedes AMG, whatever it might be. Now, this exact things that I'm about to show you are the exact things that I go in depth inside of the Closer Matrix. Now, the Closer Matrix is a completely free community and course where you're able to learn everything. I'll leave it as a first link in the description if you are interested at all. I just wanted to pull up a couple testimonials from there. You can pause the screen now if you want to read any of them. Still, nonetheless, you don't have to do that. If you don't want to, that's completely fine. So let's get into it, right? I want to go in depth as much as I possibly can of where I was actually at. So I'm going to talk about my bar back experience because that's exactly what I was doing before I actually got into high ticket sales and before I started making the money and the life that I live now. So literally before, I was stuck making 2 to 3K a month, and I was stuck trading my time for money. I worked at this bar as a bar back, and on the weekends I would go out and drink, and I had my Tacoma and I had my little life, and honestly, it sucked. And I knew I wasn't happy with it. I knew it sucked. I was working until 3 a.m. every single weekend on the weekends, which is horrible. No one talks about how shitty it is working in the industry and having to go to sleep at 4 to 5 in the morning every single night that you work, and how much that completely throws off your entire thing, right? And I don't think you understand, like, if you go to sleep at 5 a.m., your whole next week is ruined. Like, it's something that not enough people talk about, and it destroyed a lot of things. It destroyed my energy, it destroyed my physique, it destroyed my lifestyle. I always felt like shit, I always felt sleepy. It really sucked. I was dealing with drunk people all the time, which are some of the worst people to deal with, especially when you're sober. Just constantly surrounded by negative energy and by negative people. If you've been in the club, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was just really a negative life. But the tough thing about it was like satisfying. I liked being in that atmosphere. It's almost like the dude who parties too much, but like loves to party so much he knows he shouldn't be partying, but he's still doing it. Is kind of how it felt for me. I didn't want to give up the lifestyle. I didn't want to give up like working with my friends. I didn't really want to give any of that up. So I stayed stuck here for about 3 years. And I've seen a lot of people in the industry who are in a very similar position like this, or whether they're a bartender or whatever it might be stuck there for literally 10 plus years because the money's decent. You can walk out with 500, you can walk out with 1,000 sometimes on a really good night, but that's about all you get. So once I came to that conclusion, and I figured that out. I knew something had to change. I knew I had to figure something else out. I considered day trading, but I didn't really want to do that because there was no real skill in my eyes that was involved other than reading, candlesticks on a chart. I considered doing a 9 to 5, like going to a corporate job and working at a gym or doing something else like that. But I really didn't want to do that either because I didn't like the idea of clocking in and working for 8 hours and pretty much doing the same exact thing that I was doing and making around the same exact money. And I even considered college. Now, the reason I didn't go forward with college was because it took way too much time. Like, it was way too much time that I was willing to invest. Yeah, sure, you can probably make 6 figures out of a job with college, but that's not what I wanted to do. What I really wanted was freedom, and what I really wanted was control. And then I stumbled across high ticket sales. Now, the whole entire reason that I decided to go with high ticket sales, like, oh, why not day trading, or why not drop shipping, or why not this, or why not that, was because there was no capital to start, like no upfront kind of, hey, you have to have 10K saved up in order to even start, like day trading is a lot of the time. You could work from anywhere, and it was skill based. So skill based was the biggest thing because that meant that I could get paid based off of the effort, or not the effort, sorry, based off of the skill that I actually have, not the effort that I give. Now, you might ask me, okay, why not do car sales, or why not do insurance sales, or why not do a different type of sales? And because a lot of the times with door to door, with life insurance, with a lot of these other types of sales out there, it's still the same concept of trading your time for money because it's not a lot of skill involved. Anyone you talk to doesn't want to talk to you, and it's pretty much a game of luck if you do get a close, which means you're trading your time for money in the same exact thing. The whole reason I wanted to start high ticket sales was because it was skill based, and I knew that I already had the people skills to be able to talk to people, to be able to deal with difficult people at the club, to be able to actually sell things at the club, that I had a decent starting with actually selling and going into high ticket sales. So that's exactly what I did. Now, this is where I was for a few months, right? Although I already knew what high ticket sales was, although I was wanting to get started, I procrastinated and I stayed at the job, and I was still going out the whole entire time, and I was still hanging out with the same people, and I still had the same friends and the same exact lifestyle, and I just still was not ready to let go of my friends or the status that I got at the bar. Like, and I don't think this is something that enough people talk about either. What I mean by status at the bar is, like, I was working at the highest level that I could at that given bar. So I had status from everyone else in there. I felt like a G every time I walked in there. I was making decent money, and things were going like well enough to where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to kind of stay. And I procrastinated. This was like 2 to 3 months where I was in this zone, and I was kind of just accepting where I was at, and I stayed stuck. And it's dangerous because a lot of people, I start to realize now in retrospect, whether it's with the bar, whether it's with whatever it might be in life, stay stuck. They stay in this zone. For me, it was only 2 to 3 months, but for other people, I've seen it be 5 to 10 years. And it's dangerous because things feel good and people don't want to change and people don't want to go all in. So I stayed in this zone where just I wasn't really making much progress. And although I knew about high ticket sales, I wasn't actually in yet. Then it actually finally hit. I remember I had reached out to someone. I'd done a cold outreach method, and the guy called me back and he was like, "Hey dude, we're looking for a setter. You know, can you get onboarded tomorrow?" And I was like, I was at the bar. I literally remember I was at the bar. It was this night right here that he called me, and he was like, "Hey, can you get onboarded tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll get onboarded tomorrow. We'll kind of see what's up." I knew how the whole system worked. And I remember my first day, I made $75. And this was where, although it was only like $75, it wasn't anything kind of crazy, but this is where like things actually clicked for me. And I was like, a light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, okay, holy shit. I just spent 10 minutes off of a 10-minute phone call. I made $75 off of a 10-minute phone call. If I'm able to do that 3 to 4 times a day, then I can hit 10K in a month. And that was really the thing that separated me from the balance of, do I do this or do I do that? I knew right then at that point that I was all in. And then I did. I went all in. First month I made about 1,500. Next month I made about 5,700, and then month 3, 9 to 10K plus every single month after that. Now the moral of the story is go all in on the given thing and go all in as soon as you can, because realistically, I could go back to that bar job right now. And I could go back to that, living that person. I just wasn't ready or willing to let that go. So that's kind of the story. That's how I was able to, take my skills that I had learned from working at the bar and transfer it into something that was actually getting me a life that I want. So, like I said, if you want, I will leave a link in the description for the free training and free course that actually goes in depth of what it looks like, a step-by-step, exact frameworks, PDFs, copies, videos, everything. I have everything in there. If you want to use it, if not, that's totally cool. Also, I'll leave kind of a couple videos right here if you guys want to go watch. Other than that, I will see you guys. Peace out.